morning. $50 billion. 50 billion. That's what a recent Wells Fargo, That's what a recent Wells Fargo analyst reports the disruption for existing brands and retailers will be 3 years from now. The Wells Fargo report, the analyst report, goes on to say that the disruption from the things we're talking about, circularity, is going to be as big as we've seen from the internet for brands and retailers 15 years ago. As mentioned, I am CEO of Yurtle Recommerce. We are a white label service. We do the logistics and technology. We power about 85% of the brands doing resale today. So brands like Patagonia, Arc'teryx, REI, fashion brands like Eileen Fisher, and Taylor Stitch. We've been obsessed about this space for about 10 years, and what's exciting now is the space is showing up, right? So we're at this first conference, The RealReal, ThredUp. These companies are gaining massive valuations and doing incredible businesses. But the disruptors are really owning the market, right? The disruptors are where that $50 billion is going. And what we're excited about is that's starting to change. So we are just starting to see brands who are saying, we actually have a stake in this. We should have a role in what's happening. It shouldn't all be going to The RealReal or ThredUp or Rent the Runway. So we are joined today by two of those brands who aren't talking about this or thinking about it. They're brands who have birthed these programs. We're going to spend the next few minutes talking about what that process was like, what's been really hard about that, what's working, what's not, what are the hard discussions, and where's the future heading. So I'm pleased to welcome Peter Whitcomb from REI and Karen Campbell from Arc'teryx. Awesome.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah. Welcome. So let's start with very brief introductions. Peter, if we can start with you and just introduce yourself, and maybe for people who are unfamiliar with what REI is doing in this space, we could start there.
Peter Whitcomb. I'm the Director of New Business Development and Circular Economy at REI. And my team is responsible for standing up and building our circular economy business models. Most specifically today, that means our Recommerce business. So the resale of our used gear and apparel, which shows up in two different channels, our physical format garage sales, and then also our recently launched online used gear platform. And the second business that we're intently focused on is our rental offering, which just expanded to 127 locations nationally 2 weeks ago. And the third business that we're pushing into is a new sort of physical format, experiential centers that allow us to offer rentals, experiences, used gear in a way that's sort of outside of our existing four walls and brick and mortar experience. So a lot of good work going on and a lot of learnings that we'll get into in this conversation.
Awesome. And Karen, same, just introduction, and if you can share Arc'teryx brand new program launched this week.
Yeah, so my name's Karen Campbell. I work on new ventures and strategic planning at Arc'teryx Equipment. That's an outdoor equipment company based in Vancouver, British Columbia. And we launched Arc'teryx Rock Solid used gear on Tuesday in the US through an online platform in partnership with Yurtle Recommerce that we're very excited about, and it's going well.
Awesome. So Karen, maybe I can start with you in terms of, the Arc'teryx brand is it's such a good fit with this, right?
Yeah.
Why wait till now? Why is now the right time?
Yeah, I mean, we have, a design ethos that really celebrates durability, timeless, minimalist designs, and we know that there's equity in our product that wasn't being realized. If you talk to anyone in our amazing warranty and after-sales teams, they would tell you that the product that we see coming back has still so much life left in it. So this wasn't necessarily a new idea, but it was a new business pitch, and it was the right time for a number of factors, some of which is changing consumer behavior, but also really importantly was finding the right business partner. Obviously, one-of-a-kind, unique snowflake merchandising of these special pieces is so different to the way we operate. And so it was really having the leadership that was values aligned, the right commercial and sustainability business pitch, and having the product that really supported a model like this. So you have to have durable quality product to begin with.
In the conversations, and everyone knows I'm gonna try to keep it exciting here. In the conversations where you're early on pitching that now's the right time for this initiative at Arc'teryx, was the fact that other brands were doing this central? Was that important at all? Was the fact that the RealReal or these other companies were doing this, was that involved, or was it separate?
It was for me. I come from an impact investing background, so I was also very interested in the flow of capital into the space of resale, as well as, of course, what our competitors and our customers, REI, were doing in the space. So those were factors, for sure.
Makes sense. And Peter, day one, right, which was 2 years ago, this wasn't like someone walked in and said, let's do this, and the whole organization said, we're in, let's go. Can you share a bit about learnings and how this has evolved?
Just really, really painful. No, I'm joking. I think it's, that's a comment mostly on like the challenge of doing something new at a 81-year-old company that's kind of been a great company in the sort of linear consumption space. Interestingly, though, I think you can trace sort of the roots back to this. Strategically, 2 years ago was kind of the demarcation of our intent and focus on this. But I'll start at sort of our founding story. As many of you know, we're a consumer co-op. We're the largest consumer co-op in the United States. And the founding story was really actually just 23 climbing friends created a consumer co-op to leverage their buying power to access great quality gear at a low price. And fast forward to 2 years ago, and that was still super prevalent, but in light of shifting consumer behavior, a recognition that our younger and next generation consumers were telling us this was important, this little seed of germination started in our sustainability group, and quite frankly didn't have the attention it needed. And so it's bounced around a few times. I went to strategy. I was in our strategy group and took it on and really kind of put some business rigor behind sort of what it meant to approach this space. And ultimately now we are sitting here today with a few sort of dedicated P&Ls that have dedicated teams that are on early days of this learning agenda that we call it, but really seeing significant sort of progress and potential for future growth in the space.
Let's stay with that just for a minute. Just the complexity, right? Just in our normal jobs, there's a lot of complexity just in our daily lives. And you take a new business like this that touches a dozen areas across the company, and you've got new capabilities of these one-of-a-kind items. What's maybe you could share, either of you could share, a few learnings of things that either surprised you or things that are really essential for people in the audience that would be useful?
Yeah, so I'd take three. The first is, this is challenging, and it's far harder than I thought it was going to be when I sort of first signed up for it. But on the other side of that, the opportunity is bigger than I thought it was going to be as well, and sort of we're validating that through data and through actually sort of like, we take this think big, start small, scale fast approach, and we have a lot in the marketplace right now and are getting real customer feedback that's signaling, outside of these sort of startup disruptors, like a retailer can do this. And then third, within the vein of that complexity, is the unifying principle around kind of circular commerce is that you take the product back with intent. And as soon as you have that product back in your supply chain and sort of within the system, the operational mechanics of repairing it, pricing it, fulfilling it are really, really complex and not necessarily the core competency of a retailer or brand. And so the importance of, this isn't a sales pitch, but partnering with somebody like Yurtle or a service provider who that is their core competency has been absolutely paramount to us getting this right.
And Karen, you've just launched with Arc'teryx. Just quick feedback, since, if anyone hasn't seen the full page, they weren't really ads. They were kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, a statement, right? An intent from Arc'teryx. Maybe you could share anything you've seen just from the launch.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some really positive press so far around our intent to design for sustainability, designing not just amazing product, but the business processes that also go behind it. I'd say going to our previous discussion as well, like having a dedicated project manager was really key to our launch. Yeah. There's so many functions involved. There's so many ways that this kind of program can go, and the enthusiasm is fantastic, but having someone who can speak all the languages of all the functions and really keep focused on that minimum viable product to get it live and get it going and take the learnings and evolve from there was really important.
That's great. And you both touched on the customer piece. So it's understood that about 35% of millennials and Gen Zs will participate either in resale or rental this year. That'll be nearly half of all millennials and Gen Zs next year. How central is this to the survival of a business? Peter, maybe I'll start with you. How central is this to the survival of a business versus the right or a nice thing to do?
Paramount. And the way we think about it most simply is we don't want to give up our customers and members' closets and garages. And we see it as sort of used and potentially sort of recyclable goods as future levers of growth and retention and acquisition sort of vehicles for us. And we're seeing it in the data today where our rental customer is disproportionately millennial. So 1 in 3 of our rental and re-commerce customers are millennials, which is considerably higher than our core customer. So the shift is coming. They're telling that through our customer research, and then it's showing up in their behavior.
We obviously have a lot to learn as we go live and see how this thing progresses. But accessing that newer, younger customer is obviously of interest to us. But if they're coming to us as, if it's not a sustainability initiative for them, it's not even if it's just to access the brand at a lower price point than they would find at new retail, that's still a win for us because we want people in high quality gear, and that's a way we can do it.
Awesome. Get ready. We're going to come to the audience for a question. I'm going to ask one more, so get ready, and then we'll come. We'll take an audience question. The fact that Karen, I think Arc'teryx is probably REI is probably your largest customer.
Yeah.
Right. So sitting next to you. When we talk about this being competitive, is this something that brands need to do? Is it something that I guess maybe just that? What's the need to do this separate than just working with a retailer like an REI?
Well, right now, if you want to buy Arc'teryx gear, you can go to our brand stores, or you can go to our wholesalers, of which REI is our largest customer in the US, or amongst our largest customers. So why would we treat our used channel or business any differently? Sure. What we're trying to affect here is customer and consumer behavior. So if REI is ingraining that you can bring gear back and you can access it in a new channel and in a new way, that only serves to reinforce the customer behavior and the interaction that we can have as brand as well. So I don't see there being a conflict there, but you might.
Do you, I mean, maybe I'm going to follow up just quickly. Do you think that ultimately both of you will be competing for the Arc'teryx jacket in my closet?
Potentially, yeah. I think, and we're in the early days of I think, really sort of solid point, Karen, around the normalization of this behavior and sort of all the stakeholders moving in this direction so consumers know it's an option. I think it's to be determined, quite frankly, and it's the right kind of provocative question. We'll always have a healthy kind of wholesale or retail relationship as it relates to, ultimately the customer is going to decide what is sort of the best channel and avenue to serve that sort of trade-in, trade-up, access used gear model.
Awesome. All right, let's go to you all for a question.
This is very difficult. I'll try to do a package deal, if you will. You've both alluded to sort of the complexity of the processes and REI in particular, re-engineering certain things. So specifically, what are the reverse logistics implications? How do you solve for that And then what other partners do you need to pull this off? So like service partners or people who clean stuff, that sort of thing. What other partners will enter the ecosystem as a result to help with this?
It is complex, and I don't know that I can fully answer that kind of soundbite, but I think, so let's take the re-commerce business, where every item is what we call a snowflake, so totally unique. And, for me, kind of nirvana is you can identify the history, product information of every product in the market that would come back to us. So you start with kind of like the data infrastructure side and the importance of getting that right. And then there's the sort of logistics of actually like handling and taking care of the product and fulfilling the customer order. And today we do that one way. We don't do it the other. And so looking to a partner that is their core competency is critical. On the rental side, kind of a similar but a whole different set of operational and reverse logistics problems around storage, maintenance, cleaning. How do you centralize versus decentralize that, and then how do you serve the customer where they want to be?
Awesome.
Yeah, at a simplest level, we don't have the retail footprint to allow customers to come and access us as widely as we would like. So the capability of the mail-in trade-in program that Yurtle has launched and enabled for us is really important for our further flung customers to even start this journey, let alone all the other steps of the process.
Awesome. Is there one more question?
Yes, there is.
All right.
How does this affect the design of the products that you're going to offer in this way? Are there things you can't offer in this model?
There are categories of product that we will not be taking back. We design and produce climbing harnesses, and there are safety considerations and regulatory considerations. Will this upstream impact the way we design for repairability design? Yes, it will come through but the evidence case needs to be there as well, that this will succeed. And I think given the way that it's being received and the way consumers are altering their behavior and the way they think about keeping products in use for longer, and if it's not being used by you, that maybe it could be used by someone else, that evidence base will come.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe that question's also poking a little bit of like what sort of my team's doing, or just 2 points on the circular, potentially kind of closing the loop, so to speak. And absolutely, we have our own private brand, and we think about sort of the manufacturing and the elements that go into a certain product in terms of durability, repairability, recyclability. And then you get that right, and we haven't entirely, then how do you access that product and keep it in use as long as possible? We like to use an analogy of like a tent. Every tent has a certain number of nights in it before it's no longer useful. How do you maximize those and like get the most life out of that tent?
That's awesome. All right, as we wrap up, that's a great takeaway. Miles per jacket, nights per tent. Both of you leaders in the space, if you have always wanted to own Arc'teryx, you should check out. Now it might be even more accessible, which is super exciting. And if you've got a different item that you no longer need, potentially REI could be a place you could trade that in. So congratulations for both of you and what you are actually doing in the world. It's super exciting, and I appreciate you sharing your story here.
Thank you.
Thank you.